Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have a new set of crazy stories about crazy people for you to enjoy. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You won't pay for my time? Fine, we'll see about that. My first job back in the 90s was for Square Meat's Burger Joint. I was cleaning the dishes at the end of the night. At 16, I was not supposed to work past midnight. Before it was midnight, all other employees clocked out and left, so it was just the GM and me closing. This was never a problem since I was good at my job. This day, however, was different because no one from the previous two shifts cleaned the dishes they were supposed to, and half of them weren't soaking when I got to them. With a wink-wink to the GM, both knowing it'll take a long time to finish, I got to work. Manager was in the office counting the money and working out the next schedule. It ended up taking me till almost 2 a.m. to finish. I quickly go to clock out at the computer, and it tells me that I just clocked in. Well, I guess I forgot to clock in. No problem. I just let the manager know so he can put my clock-in time in the system. I go to the office where he's still plugging away at the schedule. I tell him what's up with the schedule, and he tells me that I did clock out in at the right time. He clocked me out at 11:50. What? So how am I going to get paid for these 2 hours overtime? He was going to add the 2 hours on the pay sheet for next week. Still kind of PO'd, I said that'd be fine, but what about the overtime pay? He tells me that since I was 16, he's unable to add overtime pay to my pay sheet. I was upset. I offer up a solution. Pay me cash now and all will be cool. Nope. Revenge will soon be mine, a-hole. You see, I knew that he was fudging the register money. He would take between $5 and $20 out of each till and adjust the numbers on the computer before depositing it in the safe. He could have easily given me the 2 hours overtime in cash. I wouldn't have cared. Back then, the manager's office wasn't recorded either. We didn't have digital recording. I called the corporate office to snitch on his BA. After hours of hold time and puck passing, I got to the manager in charge of my state and all of the surrounding states. At first, I don't want to tell him about me working extra late because I thought I might get in trouble too, so I told him about the money skimming. He was kind of nonplussed about it, like I was wasting his time on petty theft, so I told him about me working until 2 a.m. and him clocking me out. That got his attention. Not only was I under 18 and working late, I was working while not clocked in. 2 major violations. I wasn't on the schedule for the next 2 days because I was at max hours already. When I came in on the 3rd day, we had a new GM. She and I had a chat in her office for an hour about everything and how I didn't need to inform the Department of Labor or the Department of Insurance because they already took care of the problem. I got the hint. Over the next few months, brand new expensive camera systems were installed in the office and around the store. A new off-site managed clocking system was installed, and we got a whole new set of managers rotated in. Don't know if they were let go or just transferred to other locations to get proper training. And our next story. I must provide detailed information about my doctor's appointment to get approved for paid time off? Are you absolutely sure? A few years ago, I worked in an office with some pretty strange and crappy rules. One such rule was that while we could apply personal PTO, paid time off, for any reason, management needed a detailed summary of the reason before they would approve. This resulted in several instances of coworkers applying for PTO for things like funerals and birthdays and being told the current project deadline is more important than your niece's birthday. Or, do you really need to attend your mother's cousin's funeral? That doesn't sound pressing. It was a really toxic system that resulted in some turnover from coworkers who were sick of being held hostage over PTO. Furthermore, both the department manager and the HR manager needed to sign off on the PTO request, which resulted in some frustrating situations where one manager approved, but the other did not. It did not help that the HR manager was a jerk. Pretty much the only time you could expect to be approved was for court dates and important medical appointments. But you still needed to provide details even if it happened to be a very personal medical or legal situation. This does not strike me as legal, but sadly, this isn't the first time I've run into this working in Texas. One more bit of context. My department manager was also a jerk. Without going into too much detail, he was a power-tripping sloth who liked to harass women, like me. Let's call him Jerk, and the HR manager, Dick. We all hated both of them. I had an important appointment with my psychiatrist coming up. My meds for anxiety and PTSD were not cutting the mustard anymore, and I was in a bad place mentally. I needed a med adjustment, so I took the soonest appointment available. Work would have to cope with a couple of hours without me. I submitted my PTO request to Jerk and Dick for approval. Given the intensely personal nature of the appointment, I left the details sparse. I was rejected. Both Jerk and Dick said in an email that I needed to give details about my appointment in accordance with company policy. Jerk had the nerve to call me into his office and chide me over my unacceptably terse PTO request. "You know the rules. Why would you waste my time with such a brief request? You know I can't approve this," etc. I was PO'd, but as I stewed in my cubicle, it dawned on me that I could get back at Jerk and Dick merely by complying with their own rules. I formulated a plan. I sent an email to Dick and CC'd Jerk, always CYA folks. I said, "Are you sure you need the details of my appointment? Are you positive? It's really personal." Both Dick and Jerk said, "Yes, we need the details of your PTO circumstances. You know the rules." I replied that it's very private. "Are you sure I need to talk about it?" We sent some emails back and forth until I was sure I had a solid paper trail. Then I decided, well, if they really need my personal medical details, which I still think is illegal, but whatever, then I suppose I better give it to them. I submitted a new PTO request with all the relevant information, that I was going to see my psychiatrist for an urgent appointment. I needed to be seen at the earliest possible time because I was having thoughts of hurting myself. I also screenshotted and emailed my request to a few of the higher-ups, saying my previous request was insufficient, so I wanted to make sure I got it right this time. I submitted it. There were no snippy emails this time, only approved appearing in green text to my request in the system, maybe 4 minutes after I submitted it. I blissfully went about my day, happy to have my PTO. Curiously, neither Jerk nor Dick emerged from their offices. The fallout. When I showed up for work at 8 the following day, I was immediately called into the VP's office. One of the higher managers and a woman that I recognized from legal were also present. VP politely asked me to sit and kindly explain the grotesque email I'd sent out yesterday. He was a polite but rather out-of-touch older gentleman, so I made myself clear. I needed PTO for a very personal doctor's appointment, and my previous request was denied by both Jerk and Dick for being too brief. And Jerk even called me in his office to complain about my wasting his time. I didn't want to be rejected again, so I made sure my request was as detailed as possible. I also passed it on to management to verify that the level of detail was up to snuff when it came to corporate guidelines. And yes, I do have PTSD. It's all true, and they can reference my ADA paperwork in HR for more information. VP asked me a couple more brief questions. He then apologized for the hassle, said I was being credited some extra PTO for my trouble, and that the company would be reviewing its approach to the PTO approval process. I was then dismissed back to my desk. I received written apologies from Jerk and Dick that very morning, hand-delivered by a tense and rather petrified Jerk. I think legal put him up to it. Both Jerk and Dick went out of their way to avoid me for the remainder of my time at the company, which was a blessing. The few times we were forced to interact, they spoke very quickly and looked desperate to end the conversation. I guess my PTO request was a little too intense for them. Whatever the case, it was the end of Jerk's little power trips, at least with me personally. Also, that same morning, we received a company-wide email marked as important. There was a change in the PTO policy. Requests with regards to medical and other sensitive reasons no longer required detailed explanations effective immediately. Bonus: one of my friends in HR, well, not really a friend, but a woman who liked to discuss crocheting with me at the water cooler, showed me an internal email from Dick to all HR staff. Every PTO request from me personally was to be approved immediately and without question. I tested this later that summer by requesting a day off to watch Netflix. That's specifically what I put in the request field. I planned on quitting soon, so I was in a flippant mood. It was approved immediately. I think they had me flagged in their system. Truth be told, I could have probably taken a whole month off and gotten paid for it, but I didn't push my luck. I left the company for a much more tolerable, less toxic, higher paying job about 6 months later. And our last story. Loud tosser in the open plan office. Years ago, I was working for a company where I had an office and the neighboring department was all open plan. We shared coffee facilities, so I would often speak to people in this department over a coffee. There was once a D-bag called Trevor in that department who would only talk to people on his desk phone on conference call every conversation. Needless to say, the rest of the department were annoyed with this loud and obnoxious person screaming on the blower. As a senior guy, I casually raised this with Trevor. He responded by saying, "You can go and get effed." Now, as he was in a different department, I had no authority over him, and his boss was a D-bag too, so I would have gotten a similar response. After Trevor went home, I went to his desk and accidentally dropped some glue onto his microphone on his phone. The next day, it was set rock hard. Of course, the phone rang and he answered it on conference call, but of course the person couldn't hear him. He started screaming into the mic, but they still couldn't hear him. They would then hang up and try again. This went on for a couple of calls until he answered the phone in the manner appropriate for the office. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.